Okay, now we're going to take the idea of good old Mr. 1 and start applying it to converting units. So, first thing you need to know is what a unit conversion is. A unit conversion. Basically, it's a fancy Mr. 1. For example, I could say 1 foot is the same as 12 inches. Now, if I were converting between inches and feet or feet and inches, this is the unit conversion I would use because this is still Mr. 1. Do you see it? It's because I could change 1 foot to 12 inches and I would have 12 inches on the bottom. So 12 over 12 is Mr. 1, and so is inches over inches. So this is just a big fat Mr. 1. Or I could change this 12 inches to 1 foot because I know that's the same as 1 foot. So this is also a not quite as fat Mr. 1. So this would be considered my unit conversion. So I could either write it as 1 foot over 12 inches, or I can flip it over and say 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. Because no matter how I write it, it's still going to equal 1, Mr. 1. So remember a couple things. Number 1, Mr. 1 always has to have the same thing on the top and the same thing on the bottom, or equivalent values like 1 foot and 12 inches. Those are equivalent. That's 1. And we have to make sure that, and if we multiply by 1, it doesn't change the value. It might just change the way it looks. So right now you're probably thinking, what is she talking about? So let's look at an example, and that might help you out. Okay, it says an oil drum holds 55 gallons. That's important. I'm going to underline that. Let's underline that. How many quarts of oil will fill the drum? So we want to change from gallons to quarts. That's what I'm converting to. Gallons to quarts. Use a unit conversion to convert the units. So if you can't remember, here's our handy little fella, gallon man over here. So you can see one big giant gallon has 4 quarts in it, 4 Qs. And then we have 2 pints in each of those quarts. And then we have 2 cups in each of those pints. So that'll give you the conversion. So 4 quarts are equal to 1 gallon. You have 2, 4, 6, 8 pints would be the same as 1 gallon. And 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 cups would be the same as 1 gallon. All right, so let's first write down what we know. We know we have 55 gallons. Now, I want to multiply that by some conversion factor. My goal is to change from gallons to quarts, meaning I want to get rid of this thing. So I'm going to have to multiply it by some Mr. 1 that's going to change from gallons to quarts. So what I need to know is how many quarts make up 1 gallon. So let's go to Mr. or Gallon Man over here. If I have 1 gallon, how many quarts, how many Qs are inside 1 gallon? So hopefully you said 4. So I could write that as a conversion factor either as 4 quarts is the same as 1 gallon, or I can say 1 gallon is the same as 4 quarts. Remember I said you can flip it over and it's still the same because 4 quarts and 1 gallon are exactly the same amount. So this is a Mr. 1, and so is this. It's just a matter of which one you put on the top and which one you put on the bottom. Okay, now, remember how you simplified fractions before? We want to simplify the same way, meaning my goal is to get rid of gallons. The only units I want left are quarts. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to get gallons to cross out. So first, let's make this a fraction. I'm just going to put it over 1. If I want this unit to cross out to simplify before I multiply, that means what I have to do is put gallons in the denominator. This one's in the numerator. That means the gallons has to go in the denominator. So which one of these two unit conversions has gallons in the bottom? The first one or the second one? And hopefully you said the first one, which is the one we want. So if I put 1 gallon on the bottom, that's the same as 4 quarts. So all I'm doing is multiplying by Mr. 1 to convert my units. That's a unit conversion because it's 1 unit and it's going to convert from gallons to quarts. So now I simplify just like I did before. I'm going to cross out gallons and gallons. That's all I can do there. Let's look at our numbers. We have 55 and 1, 4 and 1. That's not going to do any good, so I don't need to cross out any numbers. So now I just multiply straight across. So 55 times 4 quarts will give me what? 220 quarts. 220 quarts over 1 times 1, which is 1. So this is 220 quarts over 1. That's just 220 quarts, which is our answer. So 55 gallons is equal to 220 quarts. And that's all there is to it. All right, so let's try another. It says Mount Everest in Nepal, Tibet is the world's highest mountain at 29,035 feet. That is important. Which was determined in 1999 using satellite-based technology. Although this is interesting, guess what? This stuff right here, not important. It says, what is the mountain's height to the nearest 1/10 of a mile? So we want to go from feet to miles. So that means we need to know how many feet are in 1 mile. Anybody know? Do you remember? You did this the other day. It should be 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So this is going to be our unit conversion. We're either going to use it this way with the miles on the bottom, feet on top, or we could say 1 mile is equal to or is the same as 5,280 feet. So really, this is just like a rate or a ratio. We have 1 mile for every 5,280 feet. So we're going to use one of these two. These are our unit conversions. So let's write down what we have to begin with. We were given 29,035 feet. And we're going to multiply that by Mr. 1. It's just a matter of which Mr. 1 should we use, this one or this one. So let's make this a fraction. Just put it over 1. Now, my goal is to get rid of feet. I want to get rid of this, and I want to be left with this. Meaning, down here, I need to get this guy to cross out. So feet is in the numerator. So that means I want to put feet over here in the denominator so I can simplify. That means I should use the second one. I should say 1 mile is the same as 5,280 feet. Okay, now that's it. We're going to get miles, which is what we want. Feet will cross out. So let's go ahead, cross out, we'll simplify. Feet crosses out feet because one's in the numerator, one's in the denominator. That means I have to take, now these are really big numbers. I know that 5 will divide evenly into both of these, but I'm going to make it a little easier on myself because I'm going to use my calculator. So let's just multiply straight across. If I have 29,035 and I multiply it by 1 mile, I'm going to get 29,035 miles. But I'm not done because look, I have a bottom number. 1 times 5,280 is 5,280. There are no units down here because they were crossed out. Now, let's go to our calculator. All this says right here, this is just a fancy way of saying 29,035 miles divided by 5,280. So punch that into your calculator. you will probably need to round. Let's go to the nearest tenth. So this is going to be approximately how many miles? Punch it in and write it down. All right, hopefully you got approximately 5.5 miles. So that tells us that Mount Everest is approximately 5.5 miles tall, which is kind of amazing. And there you have it. All right, let's look at number 3. School cafeteria buys juice in 6-gallon jugs. The workers pour the juice into cups that each hold 6 ounces. How many cups of juice will they pour from each jug? Okay, this one is a toughie. So first, let's write down what we know. We know we have 6 gallons. A 6-gallon jug. What I want to get that to is ounces. If I knew how many ounces there are in 6 gallons, then I can figure out how many 6-ounce cups there will be. So what I want to do is change from gallons to ounces. Well, I'll be honest, I don't know how many ounces are in a gallon, but what I do know is I can use my gallon man up here. I know that there are 16 cups, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 cups in 1 gallon. So I can say 16 cups for every 1 gallon. I also know that there are 8 ounces in 1 cup. So what I'm going to do is use both of these. I'm going to change these gallons to cups first. So should I make this 16 cups over 1 gallon? Because remember, I want to get the gallons to cross out. So I'm going to multiply this by my unit conversion, which is going to be something like this. So should I keep this as 16 cups over 1 gallon or 1 gallon over 16 cups? If I want my units, my gallons to cancel, that means gallons need to go on the bottom. So I'm going to use it just the way it's written up there. Okay, then look, gallons will cross out with gallons, and I'm left with cups only. Now, I still have to change the cups to ounces. Actually, let's go ahead and multiply this out. That might be easier. So we have 6 times 16. That gives us 96 cups over 1, because 1 times 1 gives us 1. Okay, now we have 96 cups, and we need to change this to ounces. So should I multiply by 8 ounces over 1 cup or 1 cup over 8 ounces? Remember, my goal here is to get rid of cups and be left with ounces. So if cups are on the top and I want to get rid of them, I need to put it on the bottom. And then this is 8 ounces. Cross out cups, and then multiply straight across. So 96 times 8 is 768 ounces over 1 times 1 is 1. So I know 6 gallons is exactly the same as 768 ounces. And if I want to know how many 6-ounce cups I can make, well, I'm just going to divide that up into 6-ounce cups. So I'm going to take 768 ounces and divide it by 6, and that's going to give me 128. And that is my final answer. So that one was a little tough. There were 2 steps in that. We had to use 2 unit conversions, but we did the exact same idea. We just broke it down step by step. So we went to cups first, then we went to ounces using 2 different conversion factors. All right, so there you go. If you did not understand something we just did, guess what you need to do? You should go back and rewatch that part so you understand. At least watch it one more time, give it another chance, and then if you're stuck on something still, come and ask me. All right, bye-bye.